I get a lot of solutions from running because when I'm out running, all the endorphins make your brain start working on overdrive. At least that's how it works for me. So once I'm actually at the computer, I only need maybe 50 minutes, half an hour or something, and then I can just finish the code. I'm very inspired by people who don't just have a 9 to 5 and happy with that. My own side projects, if I would do it 100%, it would be nice because I could ship much faster, but it would also not be so nice because I would do it all by myself.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Ship It and Sip It. I'm very excited this week to have Viktor Hesselbom in the studio. And the reason I'm excited to talk to you, Viktor, is that you're building Watchletic, which is an Apple Watch app for runners and cyclists. And I fit 2 out of 3 of those descriptions. I am a runner and a cyclist, but I do not have an Apple Watch yet. Maybe I will in the future. Viktor, let's start off with your first question. We always ask our guests, what did you ship this week that you'd like people to know about?
Right. Yeah. So currently I'm on vacation from my day job. And since I recently became a dad, that also means I take vacation from the computer altogether. And so I haven't really shipped any code like that. But the thing with side projects where you also have a lot of subscribers, or a lot, I don't know, but in the hundreds of subscribers, and also the users that I have are pretty nerdy in a good way.
Yeah.
And that means that I get contacted by them quite a lot, by email or on Reddit. So shipping it for me this week is pretty much talking to my users. Some of them are like bug reports, but usually it's a feature request. So that's nice. That's like part of building it, even though I don't code anything. Part of the product is also, of course, marketing. And that never sleeps. So and I can do it all from my phone, which is nice. So I always keep a tab on Reddit to see what people are talking about. If people are talking about the problems that my app can solve, then I'm there talking about my product.
Awesome. We'll get into your Reddit marketing activities because that's something I'm really interested in terms of the community that you've made there. But to give everyone a brief outline of the show today, we're going to talk about your background a bit, why you're so interested in watch apps, also about Watchletic itself, why you wanted to build it, how you validated the idea, how you're building in public and side hustling at the same time as being a dad, as you mentioned, and then, of course, the future of wearables and fitness tech. And I noticed after I made this outline that I didn't put the words AI in it anywhere, but I guess that we should talk a little bit about AI because I feel like this sort of niche is ripe for some AI-enabled products. So let's dive in. So what got you into Apple Watch apps? You've been doing this for like 5 years or so.
Yeah, I got an Apple Watch. I don't remember when or why. I remember when it was announced that I thought like, it's weird to have... I already have my watch. It's weird to have a watch that also does more than show the time. But yeah, I got the Apple Watch, and being a developer who also likes limits, so I really enjoy trying to work within like pushing the limits of technology, and it was kind of exciting to try to do things on such a small screen with such a limited processing power. So the first thing that I tried doing was creating a game on it, just to see if it was possible at all. So I managed to make like some 2D renderings, and then I realized, this could be something. I didn't think there was like a market here for games on the Apple Watch. At this stage, it's purely for the technical challenge. Oh, by the way, so I started programming as a game developer. Okay. So that's why gaming is like the first thought for me.
Cool.
So I was thinking like, how can I make a nice using the crown on the Apple Watch, how can I make some unique way to like a unique controls for a game? And then I thought up trying to make like a fish movement. So when you rotate the crown, then the fin goes like, follows the crown. And I got a pretty nice feeling there. And also got help from, like, I asked a friend who has aquarium fishes to record from above to see what their movement were like and trying to recreate it. So yeah, and so that was the start, and then I made like a very simple game out of it. And that was it. I released the game. I thought it was kind of fun. I posted it on Reddit. I got a few comments. They said like, oh, this is kind of unique. I got like, I think maybe 100 sales or something from that, which was kind of cool, but it wasn't like a lot.
Yeah.
And then it kind of died down.
With what you mentioned there about being a game developer, and this might jump forward a little bit into Watchletic, but I'm curious if, I don't know if you've tried to like gamify any of the aspects of the training stuff that you do with Watchletic. Has that been a way of like user engagement, or have you taken any principles into that app from sort of your game experience?
I don't think so, actually. I know a lot of people do, like trying to get your app to be like more sticky, like get people to come back to it, have achievements, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really done any of that because for my apps, I'm just thinking utility. I'm just thinking, what do I want?
Okay.
But I've been thinking about it a lot, but then I just keep getting, feature requests to add actual features instead. So I've just stuck with that. But I just want to go back to like the progress here, because I think it could be interesting. So from the game that I released, then I was talking to a friend like a year later. I thought it was dead, like I wouldn't do anything more Apple Watch. And we were talking about, like, he's a game developer too, and we were talking about revenue from the App Store. And I thought like, oh, I had those, 100 sales a year ago, but I don't think it was anything more than that. And then, so we were sitting there at the bar, and I just pulled up my App Store Connect page to see, I wonder if, if I got any more sales. And then I was shocked because I had like on December 25th, I had like 100, what is it in dollars, like $10K dollar sales for just that day. And I was like, oh, maybe there's something to this Apple Watch development. And then I just started doing a lot more. So I released a lot of games. Only it was one other that stuck. And then I started, doing apps also.
Let me just get the time frame right. You basically forgot about it for a year and then realized you had over 10K in sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess Apple doesn't set up, how people share the Stripe notifications every time they get paid. Like,
yeah, I didn't have that. So probably I had that money in my bank account. I must have, but I probably didn't think about it. I probably don't look at my bank account enough.
Right, all right. Well, that's awesome. The other app that you made that you had listed on your portfolio was a podcast app, which I thought sounded useful. I like to run a lot without my phone. I usually don't listen to anything if I'm running outside. But in the winter, when I'm running on a treadmill or something, it definitely helps to pass the time. Are there a lot of podcast apps for the Apple Watch?
So the reason behind that, by the way, I don't actively develop it anymore, but people are still using it, so it still works. The reason behind it was like, so Apple has their own podcast app, and pretty much every podcast app has an Apple Watch app.
Okay.
But all of them were pretty bad at downloading offline episodes. Like for instance, the Apple official podcast app is magic. Like it sometimes downloads an episode, sometimes not. And when I'm going out for like 1-2 hours running, I want to know if the episode is downloaded or not. And if it's downloaded 100% or not, because that was also one thing. So I just made a simple app that very clearly shows how much it's downloaded. And also there's a lot of things with internet connection on the Apple Watch, which is kind of weird. Like we we don't need to go into the specifics, but it was a lot of things that I had to, like in the app, give instructions to people how they should download it, because it will just try to download, then the internet will go through their phone, it will be super slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a very weird, buggy way, but it made it work. It made the episodes actually download.
Yeah.
So that was the reasoning behind that.
Cool. Well, that's a good sort of segue into one of my questions here, which is about the difference and we can stay high level, but the difference between, say, mobile apps for iOS and Apple Watch apps, other than the constraints that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is it an easy jump to make for someone that might be interested in it, or is there some really specific things they should think about?
Yeah, mostly the simple answer is it's kind of similar. So the code looks similar. You use like Swift UI to build your UI, but then it's like you always get these very weird things that are hard to debug, which is very hard to know beforehand. There's no like documentation. There's very few Apple Watch developers, like for many companies, the Apple Watch is like an afterthought. So there's very few resources. Like I've dealt with things like very weird networking things, and then I had a thing with the running app where the battery was draining super fast, even though I followed all the recommended ways to do things according to Apple documentation. Things like that. And it's very hard to debug because you have to build the app to your Apple Watch, and then you don't really see any logs. Like if you have to go out to a run to test it, which is the case for me. So yeah, that's kind of annoying, but it's also fun to try to complete these challenges to work with these quirks. And also for me, being a developer who has kind of okay designer skills, but not like the best designer, the Apple Watch is super nice to work with because you are so limited with the UI that you can build. So you don't really need a design pretty much.
Yeah.
That's something I really enjoy versus, iPhone development or Android development.
Cool. You could speak a little bit about getting users. I don't even know how many people have Apple Watches. So how small is the market, and like, does anything change for you in terms of marketing? I'm making assumptions here, but in your day job, I assume that you're not involved with marketing the apps that you're working on. If that's not true, you can tell me. But
no, that's true.
With Watchletic, obviously you're a solo founder, as far as I understand. Yeah. So marketing is also your job. What have you learned through that process?
I learned so much. So that's fun because the games that I've done, they've kind of like by chance ended up in top list. So that was like free marketing. But for Watchletic, I've done a lot of things. So I keep experimenting. Like it's not that I found like the perfect solution yet. But yeah, so I can tell you like my primary way to get users, which I think probably works for a lot of people, I would assume. What I did first of all was post on Reddit. Like you will hear me talk a lot about Reddit because I think it's just such a valuable resource because there's so many people there and people are into very specific things there. So first I just posted it on Reddit, got like crickets, nothing happened. But then I started to search both on Twitter and on Reddit and just search for people who, well, first of all, we're talking about running intervals, which was the first thing Watchletic was doing. It was to run intervals or to set up intervals on the Apple Watch, which the Apple Watch didn't support natively at that time. That didn't bring that many users. I had like, I don't know, a couple of hundred like free users. But then I had someone actually email me wondering if I could build an integration into Training Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't heard about Training Peaks before, but I said, sure, so to do that.
Sort of one of the OG online training platforms.
Yeah. I've come to realize that's like the biggest one pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I built an integration into Training Peaks. when I was building that, I also searched on Reddit, on Twitter, if people were talking about Apple Watch and training peaks. And I noticed that a lot of people were talking about that and wanted that integration. So I built that, and then I started answering all the people on Reddit and Twitter, like, oh, you can use Watchletic for that. And that's how I got my first paying customers. So I just set up like a subscription to use that integration, because I figured that if you're already paying for training peaks, then like a small subscription extra to make it work on your Apple Watch wouldn't be that much.
Yeah.
So that's how I started, and then I got more and more requests for other platforms like Final Search, Train as One, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have like 10 different integrations, I believe, and I monitor keywords for all those platforms. So I know anytime someone mentions training peaks on Reddit, or someone mentions Train as One, and then I say, oh, I wonder if like I can see their comment. Was it related to Apple Watch, or was it related to? Usually, it's related to Garmin.
Yeah.
So that's not something for me then. But if it's related to Apple Watch, then I can say, oh, there's this solution. That's pretty much how I get all my users now.
Cool.
Just answering people who are talking about the problem that they have.
All right. So I guess you got into that a little bit. You wanted to build an interval tracker for your Apple Watch, and there wasn't one. Apple doesn't have one. My wife has an Apple Watch, and the fitness, the running tracking is very like bad, the native version. So I'm not surprised, but I guess at that time, did you have any other motivations? What did the market look like? Did Strava have an Apple Watch app at that point? Because that's pretty popular.
There were a lot of running apps on Apple Watch, like Strava has one, Nike Running Club has one, and I was getting into running more and more. I was using my Apple Watch. I was using the Nike Running Club app because I had like a Nike branded Apple Watch, so it came with the Nike Running Club app. But all it did was essentially, as show the distance, the pace, the heart rate, all the usual things. And I found that pretty much every app only showed that. I started working more and more with setting up intervals, because I read more and more and like, oh, I want to run intervals. And I started doing that, but I had to keep everything in my head. Like, okay, I run the first interval, okay, and now the second, the third. But once you get to like the 8th interval, the 8th uphill interval, and then your head is kind of messed up. So I used to run like holding up my fingers, like, okay, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So my friend had a Garmin, and every time I talked to her, I just asked her a question about the Garmin, because I really wanted to get a Garmin because I knew it had all the features that I wanted. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, well, but I am a developer, so maybe I should just try to build this. How hard could it be?
Naturally.
So, yeah, that's pretty much how it started. I want to build it for myself pretty much. So it wasn't really like, I wasn't thinking a business. I was just thinking, I want to build it for myself, and maybe someone else could enjoy it, perhaps. Turns out it was more difficult than I thought to build. So I've been building it now for like 2 years or something, and I still I'm not done. So I thought I would build it for like a week or something. But yeah, that was it. So since then, I've just pretty much, like, most of the features at the beginning was just me copying Garmin features and building into Watchletic just for myself, pretty much. Like I read something about a Garmin feature, like I read about setting up pacing splits on Garmin, and then I wanted it on Apple Watch, so I built it into my app. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that's not a feature that many people use, even know about. But yeah, so I built, so that's how it started. I kind of wanted to get a Garmin, but then I didn't. That's how it started.
Cool. Well, I've been using like GPS watches. I started on Garmin ages ago, before I had a smartphone. When we had to like connect it to the laptop and use this really crappy desktop Garmin software to upload it. But I never got into Apple Watches just because, I've just always been on GPS watches. Anyway, I'm curious, in terms of the app itself, Do you also have like a mobile app that's a companion that like is a training app, lets users set up their intervals there and sync it? How sort of integrated is the whole platform?
Yeah, I have a companion iOS app where you can see your runs, see statistics, analyze your runs. You can also schedule runs. You can, of course, import workouts from, as I am set up, all the integration with what you want, like Strava, Training Peaks, or whatever you're using.
Cool.
If you are using any of those.
Yeah.
But you can't run with the app just yet. That might be something for the future, maybe. But currently, it's like a companion app to see your analytics and stuff like that.
Awesome. So what has the feedback been like from the community? And sort of, I'm curious as to who you're targeting here. Is it new people that just get an Apple Watch and then all of a sudden they want to try running? Is it sort of the established athletes that are sick of Garmin or some other watch and end up with an Apple Watch and want all the features that they used to have on more comprehensive training apps? What kind of people are you attracting?
Yeah, that's a great question. Since I started with just targeting myself and then gone from there. But I would say that currently, I think my target right now, like it works for anyone who wants to run, who wants to cycle, who wants to swim. It also works for cross-country skiing, but it's only me who uses that. But yeah, so the target I would say is people who are running with their Apple Watch, who are happy with running with their Apple Watch, but then, or rather, who have been running with their Apple Watch for a while and then want to upgrade to Garmin. So I'm like in the middle there, like maybe you don't need to upgrade to a Garmin.
Right.
Like they want to be more like serious runners. Then you feel like, oh, I need a Garmin or a Chorus or something to be a more serious runner. Maybe you don't need that because there's this app, Watchletic, which kind of bridges the gap a little bit. I think that's where I'm at. So runners who are using Apple Watch and want to be a little bit more serious with their running. Like you want to start scheduling, setting up intervals, pacing, splits, things like that.
In terms of sort of growing the user community, besides just replying to things on Reddit, you also have a Watchletic subreddit.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Did you set that up, or was that something that happened sort of organically in the community?
Yeah, I wish it was organically. That would be nice. But yeah, so I used to have in the Watchletic app, I used to have my personal email. If you have any bug reports or feature requests, please just email me and I'll answer as soon as possible. And I got a lot of emails that way, which was great because then I knew what people wanted. But I thought like I keep answering a lot of the same questions, and also there's so many different people who are emailing me. It would be nice if this could be like more visible, so it could both answer questions so I don't need to answer them again, but also for like SEO purposes, that if Google sees people talking about Watchletic, then we could show it to even more people. So it's kind of a marketing thing too, to just get more content out there. So what I did was set up the Reddit, change in the app so that I promised on the Reddit I will answer, because I get an alert anytime someone posts on the Reddit. So I will answer within 24 hours. If it's like a bug report or whatever, I'll answer within 24 hours. And then I still kept my email in case it was like personal things, like, some people have an issue with a specific route that they're trying to upload, and that could be, more sensitive, and I don't want to share it to everyone. So I still kept my email, but I wrote that like, for, non-urgent things, then you can email me. But if it's more urgent, then write on the Reddit, and I'll send that. I didn't know how it would turn out. Like, would people still email me? Would they write on the Reddit? But I think when I released that version that mentioned the Reddit, I think I got a post in like the same day. So I was like, oh, nice. Cool. At least one post, so it doesn't look that empty.
Yeah. Cool. Are there any other growth plays you're thinking about in terms of the running community? I guess I'm thinking of a lot of, like, Nike has a really strong community. They have chapters all over the world and run clubs and things like that. Is there anything that you could facilitate on the app, like grouping people together that are training for the same marathon or something like that? Have you tried anything like that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I really want to build a community somehow. Like the Reddit community is not really a community, it's just a subreddit where people ask questions pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want somehow to get people talking with each other. So one thing I really liked about getting a Whoop strap is the community parts of the Whoop. I joined the indie hackers like a community on Whoop, and people are chatting there about, oh, how can I get better sleep? How can I do this and that?
Huh.
And they kind of make me want to open the app more, and just to talk to the people there who have like similar goals.
That's
It could be
interesting.
cool.
Is that Whoop community like within the Whoop app itself?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's in the Whoop app. So you can join like communities, which are, well, first of all, like the ones that are directly visible in the Whoop app are like, men 30 to 35, or people in Sweden or BOA, and there you can only see like the high score, which doesn't really say much.
Yeah.
But then if you create private groups, then you can also chat in them, which is kind of cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't really have any plans like that, or maybe I do. Like I write up everything, every marketing idea I have. I don't have anything in my head pretty much.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I was just curious, but that's one thing I never knew about the Whoop app. We can pivot into sort of wearables now more broadly. So tell us about the Whoop app. Why were you, or the Whoop bracelet, the app, the whole product? Why did you want to try it out, and what have your first impressions been beyond the community aspect that you mentioned?
So I've been using an Aura ring for a couple of years, and also I've been using the Apple Watch for sleep. Also, like I've been sleeping with my Apple Watch. I stopped using my Apple Watch during sleep when I had my baby, because I'm using the Apple Watch Ultra and it's kind of sharp. So I didn't want to, risk injuring him somehow. So the Aura ring was nice for that, because I was kind of interested to see my sleep. Like Aura is one of those things that I've been using on and off. Like I use it and then it's like, oh, it's very nice to get all this data. And then I stop using it because like, oh, well, I know that I'm sleeping well. But then when I got my kid,
you stopped sleeping well.
I stopped sleeping well. Yeah. So I got even more curious, because now the sleep is kind of dynamic, and so I wanted to start watching that again. But then we went away and I forgot my Aura charger there. So now I couldn't use the Aura. So I was kind of deciding, oh, should I get like a new charger, which was like $150 or something. It was kind of expensive. Or do I get like a Whoop band, because I've seen people talk about it, and kind of nice to try something new. So I decided to get the Whoop band just to see how it works, and then to make it into like a business expense. And I started thinking about how can I use this more than just for myself. So one thing I noticed about Whoop is that it's marketed towards people who really, are into fitness, who are really into endurance sports. A lot of the strain calculations, I feel like, are very much focused on endurance, getting your heart rate up.
Yeah.
So they have this built in, you can start a running activity built in. But then you have the same thing that I saw with all the Apple Watch apps, that you only have like duration, distance, pacing, heart rate. So if you want to run like intervals with the Whoop app, you can't.
Yeah.
Or rather, you can use, a Garmin or something else.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe that could be something like build something and target it towards Whoop users, like a Whoopletic or something.
Interesting. And I guess this is more from personal curiosity than anything else. But since I assume you've been running with both the Whoop on and the Apple Watch on,
Yeah.
has the data sort of lined up pretty well in terms of like the heart rate sensors and all that stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. I wear the Whoop all the time, but currently I only wear the Apple Watch when I'm running.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't like analyzed it, side by side, but I did do like a max. I entered my max heart rate, and the Whoop told me like, "Oh, that's unusually high."
I saw that tweet. I checked on that.
So I entered my max heart rate as 201. Yeah, so I had to try to do like a max heart rate test. So I found a very steep hill where we were staying, and I just ran up it like 5 times, I think, to see what my max heart rate would record as, and would actually recorded as 202. So in your face, Whoop.
Yeah.
But for that run, both the Apple Watch and the Whoop said 202 as the max heart rate. So at least for the max, it displayed the same. So
Cool. Yeah, I haven't had great success with the wrist-based heart rate monitors. Just
all right, use the chest strap.
I used to, and now I got an arm strap. But with the watch-based ones, generally they'll lock onto my cadence a lot. So it'll show my heart rate is like 173, 175 the whole time. And that's really high for me. Like that's above my max heart rate. So
yeah, how
it's way off. Anyway, side tangent there.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of other gadgets that you've been posting about on your Twitter, you also got these AR sort of smart glasses. Tell me a little bit about those. And have you been running with them, cycling with them?
Yeah, so these glasses, I actually think it's crazy that they're not more popular. I don't know anyone who knows anything about this technology. So the technology is called Active Look. So these are the glasses. So it's like sunglasses, but then, so it looks, I can put them on. So it looks like, normal sunglasses. But then inside you get like a little small screen that's reflected on the glasses, like a heads-up display that you can, get in cars, where you can see, your pace, your heart rate, your distance, things like that. You can program it to do anything. So I got them to integrate them into Watchletic, of course. So one thing I found with them, they integrate with Garmin, with like some kind of Garmin IQ app or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the Apple Watch app that connects with this, like the official Apple Watch app, it was fine. It was, it works. But I've successfully built like an integration into this, into Watchletic. It's not released yet, but I have it working, so it's like in a beta version. And I was running with them for a half marathon race, and the feeling of just not having to look at your wrist at all, just always looking straight ahead and seeing like, oh, what is my heart rate right now? Or actually, I'm also using the Stride foot pod, so I can get my power readings also. So now I can run with these glasses, constantly see my power output without having to look down. It feels a little bit weird to run with, all this technology on you. Because running is supposed to be like, oh, you just go out running. So it's like the simplest sport there is. But yeah, I like to complicate things.
Yeah. Well, I like the approach of having certain amount of information readily available. Like you said, you don't have to look at the watch. I know, like, even when you watch sort of a major marathon, if there's a close finish with some of the leaders and one guy's constantly looking at his watch, the commentators will say, he's wasting energy doing that.
Yeah.
And it's also sort of it throws you off a little bit from the competition. So I appreciate your interest in it, because it feels like you're testing things that sort of give you just enough information where it's most sort of useful, efficient to have it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. How did the half marathon go? Did you have any problems with all the data
So the one weird thing with using these glasses is that you kind of, like you were talking about, get out of the race feeling a little bit if you watch your wrist a lot. It was very much the same thing with these glasses. So the half marathon that I run it every year. It's called Göteborgsvarvet. It's like a Gothenburg half marathon, one of the biggest in the world. And there's a lot of people out cheering during this run. So, but when I was wearing these glasses, I was, so focused on my pace, on my heart rate, and since I saw it all the time, I kind of, the crowd kind of disappeared.
Right.
So that was like, it was nice because I could keep like, an even pace, but it was bad because I kind of lost a lot of, the feeling of the race.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess there's a balance that needs to be found there. Let's see. Speaking of balance, let's talk a little bit about your overall build in public, side hustling, being a new dad. So how do you make it all work together? I think that the term finding balance is a little bit overused, but how do you prioritize these things in your current situation?
Yeah, it's interesting because I talk a bit about this also on Twitter, but I think a lot of people don't believe me. But my setup is this. So I have a day job, which I very much enjoy. I'm a developer. I do, websites and apps. Not a lot of Apple Watch apps, but sometimes I get to do Apple Watch apps there also. And that's full time. And then I do this on the side, and I managed to deploy this app. I deploy, new versions constantly. It's like pretty much once a week when I'm active. And the way that I do that, it's like a mixture of experience and also pre-planning. So what I do, like how I develop, and I think actually many people develop like this, even though they may not be aware of it or not think about this. But what I do is I think about the problem, think about the solution. It's all in my head, write it down, and then just one of those parts is to actually write the code. So writing the code is, for me, who has done it a lot, it's pretty quick for me. I can write the actual code pretty quick if I have pre-planned what I'm supposed to do. So what I do is like, when I'm out running, out walking, currently like I walk a lot with my baby. I'm out walking with the stroller, wearing him, because that's the only way he sleeps. So he might be sleeping for 2 hours, and then I'm just out thinking, and with my phone, I can just think through a solution, write it down, think a little bit more, write it down. I get a lot of solutions from running because when I'm out running, all the endorphins just make your brain start working on overdrive. At least that's how it works for me.
Yeah.
So I need to, write everything down. And so once I'm actually at the computer, and I only need like maybe 50 minutes, half an hour or something, and then I can just finish the code because I've already planned it all in my head how I'm supposed to do it.
So that's interesting. And I feel like a lot of the Twitter indie builder community, there's this pretty strong narrative that like, I want to build something that makes me enough money that I can finally leave this day job that I dislike for one reason or another. Do you identify with that at all? I mean, you don't have to throw your employer under the bus. I understand. Like, is that one of your motivations, or is it more just I like building these things on the side, and I also like my day job, which is totally valid?
It's both, I would say. My goal is similar to a lot of indie hackers, so I want to earn enough revenue from my apps that I could do it full time, even though I might not do it. Like, I just want, to have the feeling of being able to do it full time. But the thing with like where I work, my day job, I've been there for 7 years. I really enjoy all the coworkers. Most of the people are the ones who've been there for 7 years also. So they are like, my friends. So when I go to the office, it's nice to have people to hang out with. So one thing, if I would do purely my own side projects, if I would do it 100%, it would be nice because I could ship much faster. But it would also not be so nice because I would do it all by myself. I wouldn't have these people to hang out with. So it's a mixture of both. But it would be nice to have, the feeling of not being, not needing your day job. All right. So you just do it because you enjoy it and not because you really, really have to do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right. And when did you start sort of sharing this whole journey on X? I'm not sure how long ago I found you. I think it was like a year and a half or something. I've been following your Watchletic journey. Did you start posting there just for fun a long time ago and carry that into building side projects? Or did you go to X specifically to like find this community of indie builders?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I had a Twitter account for a lot of years. So initially I was just writing in Swedish and I didn't really write much. I didn't have any followers. Yeah, just wrote about local things pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know how it switched actually. I really don't remember. I think probably it must have been started seeing people who were building in public and being inspired by them and seeing like, oh, this is something that can be done.
As someone who now has a running or a fitness app that you're trying to grow, and you're also just sharing your builder journey, your developer journey on Twitter as well. Have you tried to like merge those personas and like try to attract runners who might be interested in using your app, as well as attracting a community of builders who you just want to connect with because you're facing similar challenges trying to build these side projects?
I really should try to target runners. Like I see a lot of people who are really, writing to the people who they're also selling to. I think that would be great, but currently I just use X to be inspired pretty much. So I just get inspired by people who are building cool things, people who are living, alternative lifestyles. I'm very inspired by people who don't just have a 9 to 5 and happy with that. So for me, it's, I get inspired by those people. I want to connect with these people. I'm not sure if I always will build fitness apps or if it's something I'm just doing at the moment. Watchletic has been like working much better than I anticipated, which is great. But so yeah, I'll probably build Watchletic for a long time.
Cool.
But you never know. I might start building something else. Like I have a few ideas for things that could also work for other builders. So maybe then the community aspect there could come be beneficial.
Yeah.
But for now, it's just, inspiration.
In terms of those ideas that you're thinking about, do you want to keep working on watch apps, or you want to work on web, mobile, anything?
I'm always programmed on so many different platforms. I started writing, Flash games back in the day, built websites and all the technologies, it feels like, PHP, JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. Built Apple Watch apps, iPhone apps, Android apps. So I don't really feel like I have to have, one platform to build on, although I really enjoy Apple Watch because there's so much untapped potential. So many, like there's millions of people who are using an Apple Watch and so few who are actually building to it. So there's a lot of potential there. But I also think it would be cool to, I want to build some kind of web SaaS. And purely because I read so much about, marketing strategies, setting up Facebook ads, and it just seems so simple. Not simple, that might be the wrong word, but, it's so much easier, when you do Facebook ads for an iPhone app, then it's so difficult to track the user. The iPhone, stops a lot of tracking. you have to ask if you can track, and most people say no, and things like that. But if you do it on web, then you can track exactly what they're doing. So you can, optimize your advertising for, conversions in a different way. I'm not sure what web SaaS that would be, but I'm intrigued to try out, advertising for some kind of web solution, whatever that might be.
Interesting. Cool. I guess let's wrap up a little bit talking about, I don't know if you want to talk more about the future of wearables and stick with sort of the sports tech genre, or if you want to branch away from that. But let's start there. We already talked about the Whoop band, your glasses. Fitness tech is moving forward a lot. I was curious, now that I've thought about this more in terms of Watchletic, have you thought about sort of integrating, because you get training data, right? You're training for a half marathon or something. You've got 6 months, years of running data. Have you thought about ways to sort of feed that into one of the AI models and have it sort of give you advice? You also have the data from overnight HRV, so you could sort of pair those things up and have it tell you today's a great day for intervals, or today you should go easy. Any of those ideas kicking around in your head?
Yeah, for sure. Pretty much exactly what you said. Because I work with AI a lot at my day job currently. We build a lot of things where we collect data and make it work with different AI models. So that's for sure something I want to build into maybe Watchletic, maybe something else. I've also, for my own running scheduling, I've been using like a ChatGPT chat. Like I have a long running chat in there where I say like, oh, this week I want to, I want to run like this. I want to follow this plan. And then I can just say, so this is the powerful thing, that I can just say like, okay, I ran it on Monday, Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I had like an injury, or maybe I got sick or something. And I can just write that, and it will, change the schedule around to give me time to recover.
Right.
And it's such a simple process that it kind of feels magical. Like a lot of AI feels magical, but when you take AI into a training context, so training is so real. It's you are out there running, pushing yourself, and then when you combine that with AI, it feels so powerful. So I really want to build something like that into maybe Watchletic, maybe some kind of running coach or something like that, because anyone can get that experience now, but by going to ChatGPT. But of course, it doesn't have your data, so you have to enter your data manually. But then also a lot of people won't. And it's such a cool feeling that I really want to share it with more people.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like if Strava hasn't done this yet, they're like the most positioned to do this just because of the data set they have. I mean, I have over 10 years of training data on Strava already.
Yeah.
So
I'm
sure they'll figure it out at some point, or maybe they won't.
There's a sorry.
They've been trying to figure out how to become profitable for 15 years as well, and they haven't really found the path to that either. So maybe somebody else will do it. What were you going to say?
So Watchletic currently integrates with a few platforms who are AI based. There's one called AI Endurance and one called Trainers One.
Mm-hmm.
Both are great. They were released before all this, LLMs. So I think their AI isn't really based on, OpenAI or something like that. It's just their own algorithms, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They still work pretty well. Like it's not rocket science scheduling runs.
No.
But, combining with, an AI that you can also talk to, I think that's what makes it very powerful, that you can talk to and it will also alter your schedule. There's so much potential there, I believe.
For sure. Shifting gears a little bit, since we've been talking about all this stuff, let's see, say somebody from X. So one of the other builders wrote to you and said, Victor, you're a founder with the running app. I want to get into running, but I don't have anything. I just have my phone. What would your running stack for them be in terms of tech stuff to buy?
So if they will follow exactly my tech stack, they will be, go crazy because I have so many things. But yeah, so for me, running is, quantity. So for me, running is a quantity sport. You have to just, go out and run in whatever way is enjoyable to you. So you have to find a way to make it fun. That's the primary thing. Mm-hmm. For me, I really enjoy data, to see some data, to, being able to analyze the data. So for me, I really want, some kind of watch to record the runs, be it, Garmin, Corals, or an Apple Watch works fine. And then, if you want to have maybe some nice clothes, go nuts with the running fashion. Yeah. Anything that makes it more enjoyable to do, because it's so important just, to be consistent and do it a lot. But for actual, tech gear, of course, I'd recommend Apple Watch and use Watchletic.
I won't throw Garmin under the bus, but there are reasons I stopped using them.
What are you using now, John?
Coros, yeah. I bought a Coros Pace to, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. It's been working really well. The only thing I would add in terms of advice is sort of to stay within one brand ecosystem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So if you're on an iPhone and you want to work with Apple Watch, that makes sense. Obviously, Garmin has apps for everything, but in terms of like peripheral stuff, I have a Coros watch, but I have a different brand armband for my heart rate, and it's just a little messy. So
adding to that, I've been using the Apple Watch for a long time. I haven't been using, Garmin or Coros, and I found in an app called HealthFit, which is like it just takes health data and shows it in a different way. Mm-hmm. And I was able to find like statistics for all my old runs from when I started using the Apple Watch, which was like, 6 years ago or something, 6-7 years. And I could see, for every year how much I had run. Like I can compare where I am right now in July. Mm-hmm. I can compare where I was in July, how many, the mileage for July last year, July the year before, then the before. And that was super cool to see. That wasn't something that I had even thought about, but because I stayed in the same ecosystem, then everything, gets stored in the same place.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, those sort of long-term data visualizations get really interesting once you've been doing it for long enough. And I think that's one of the things where a lot of the modern apps sort of fall short. Like a lot of these, like the strain score or your current fitness, like a lot of these algorithmic sort of progress bars, they kind of hide the story. And I think that those long-term data visualizations are important. So just a tip if you need any more ideas for Watchletic.
That's great. Yeah.
I also really like rolling things because so many of the apps do like week over week or month over month breakdowns. But I think it's really important to look at like your last 7-day rolling numbers and last month rolling numbers. And then sort of you can compare it to the 30 days before or 7 days before so that you see sort of how much you're ramping up, how much you're falling off. But anyway, I digress. We can nerd out.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I want to nerd out. I want to get all these nerdy thoughts from you, John, and just implement everything you say into Watchletic.
All right. Well, I'll have to get, maybe my next watch will be an Apple one.
Yeah.
But I guess that's connected. Have you thought about making the app itself more open to other than Apple Watch users? Like if you built Watchletic training app, like the mobile app, into something comprehensive and valuable enough that even me as a Coros user would want to be like, I want to look at my data on there instead of the Coros app.
Right. I can tell you that I'm currently rebuilding the mobile app. So the watch app works fine, but the mobile app I'm rebuilding to make it, first of all, cross-platform and also available on iPad and also on the web. So you can see all your runs, all your Apple Health data from your computer, because sometimes I feel like on the phone, the analytics is a little bit limited. So that's one thing. And also my next step after that is probably to build a watch app for Wear OS, which is quite a small market now, I think, because everything I hear about Wear OS is like how buggy it is.
Is that
like how the GPS, how buggy it is?
Is that Google or is that Samsung?
All right, yeah, it's so it's the Android of watches. Samsung, I believe Samsung is using Wear OS also. So they recently, released the Galaxy Watch Ultra, which is like the Apple Watch Ultra. And from what I understand, I haven't tried it yet, the GPS is a little bit better, but it's still quite buggy. So I feel like not a lot of people build for the Wear OS, fitness apps, because it isn't known for fitness, but also it's still quite early in their tech, I feel like. So I think if I could build an equally good solution that I have on Apple Watch, but also on Wear OS, then I feel like I could probably be a little bit ahead of the curve, because I think Wear OS will grow more and more. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I mean, Google, they bought Fitbit a while ago, but I've heard that they kind of just forgot about it. I don't know. Google tends to do this, right?
Killed by Google.
Yeah. And they do it to their own products, which is just kind of strange. But
yeah, that's the thing, talking against Wear OS, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Are you training for any fall races? Anything on the horizon for you in terms of running?
Yeah, so I always have this race once a year, the half marathon, and then I try to do races in between. So currently it's hard to schedule in when I build and also am a dad, like we talked about. But I do have one race coming up in August, which is a 10K, and it's related to it's called like WMAC, so it's like a world championship for seniors.
So the Masters
held in Gothenburg. Yeah, the Masters. Okay. Yeah, it's held in Gothenburg, so it's like so Olympics for Masters.
Cool.
So we're going there to watch it, but then they also have like a 10K race, which is for anyone pretty much, because I'm not a senior, obviously, but so I'm running that 10K race, which is called like WMAC 10K, and we'll be in the same place where all these great senior athletes will perform.
Cool. Well, I think Masters is 40 plus, so I don't know how old you are, but I'm not far away. All right. Well, awesome. And I guess last question for you. Oh, I forgot to ask you. We talked a little bit about sort of your vision for Watchletic, but more generally, what does success look like for that and for you in Watchletic in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. So probably, like we also touched a little bit, success would be to have enough subscribers to be able to do it full time. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily doing it full time, but being able to do it full time. I feel like if I reach that stage, then I feel like, that would be a huge success, because then you feel like, oh, it's validated already, but then it will feel really validated.
Awesome. Well, where should folks follow you if they want to learn more about it? I know that you're on X. Are there any other platforms you use to share about your journey?
No, it's X. So Hesselbom, my last name on X. That's where you can see me talk about building this app, and also, any other ideas I have. I pretty much, I have a lot of ideas, and a lot of them I just write on X. Either someone else can create the app idea, or maybe I will do it if I get enough responses. But yeah, so you can follow me on X.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been great to nerd out on running a little bit and meet you and talk about watches and all this cool stuff that's coming up for us people that like to run and cycle. So thank you so much, Viktor, for your time.
Yeah, thank you, John. I really enjoyed it.